The wind moved through the broken streets of the old colony city. Dust covered the ground where buildings once stood tall. Rusted metal frames leaned to one side, and shattered glass lay buried under the sand. The war had ended months ago, yet silence ruled the land. Human patrols walked through the ruins each day, making sure no danger remained. Ryan, a soldier of the human forces, walked carefully across the cracked road. His boots pressed against stone and ash. He carried a small rifle at his side, but his eyes showed more weariness than anger. He had seen too much destruction. Every patrol reminded him of how fragile life was. He sometimes wondered if there was any purpose left in guarding a world that had been broken. That morning was quiet, more than usual. The sky was gray, with clouds heavy above the ruined towers. Ryan moved past an old market square where collapsed stalls still stood, their colors long gone. He was about to turn back when he heard a sound. At first, he thought it was the wind. Then he paused, listening carefully. It was not the wind. It was a voice, soft and trembling. He turned his head and saw movement near a broken wall. A small figure stepped forward. It was not human. She was thin, her arms fragile, her face pale with hunger. Her large eyes carried both fear and hope. The little alien girl looked no older than 10. Her clothes were torn and dusty, and her steps were weak as she came closer. Ryan froze for a moment. During the war, humans and aliens had stood against each other. Even though peace was declared, suspicion still remained. Many humans still did not trust the alien survivors. But this was not a soldier standing before him. It was a child. The girl lowered her head slightly and raised her hand. In a weak voice she spoke. "Bread," she said. The word was simple, yet it carried more weight than any weapon. Her voice was tired, as if she had been asking for days without answer. Ryan's heart tightened. He reached into his pack and pulled out his last ration bar. It was not much, only dry and hard food, but to someone starving it meant life. Slowly, he stepped closer and held it out. The girl hesitated, her wide eyes watching him. She seemed unsure if it was safe to take food from a human. "Here," Ryan said gently. "It is for you." The girl reached out with trembling fingers. She took the bar and held it tightly, as if afraid it might disappear. Then she broke off a small piece and placed it in her mouth. She chewed slowly, carefully, as though every crumb mattered. Her thin frame shook slightly, and for a brief moment, her eyes closed in relief. Ryan watched her in silence. He expected her to run away once she had the food, but she stayed. After finishing a piece, she looked up at him. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was soft but clear. "What is your name?" Ryan asked. The girl pressed her hand against her chest. "Lyra," she said. Ryan nodded. "I am Ryan." For a moment, they simply looked at one another. Two lives from different worlds, standing together in the ruins of war. Ryan could see the scars of hunger on her face. He wondered how long she had been wandering these streets. "Are you alone?" he asked. Lyra lowered her gaze. She did not answer at first. Then she gave a small nod. The silence of her reply spoke louder than words. She had no family left. Ryan felt a heaviness inside him. He had seen soldiers fall, but the sight of a starving child was harder to face. He reached for his canteen and offered her water. She drank carefully, taking small sips, as though afraid to waste a single drop. The ruined market around them felt less empty now. The presence of this little girl made the silence softer, almost human again. Ryan crouched down so his eyes were level with hers. "You should not stay here," he said. "It is dangerous." Lyra looked around at the broken walls. Her small shoulders shook as she whispered, "No place safe." Her words carried the truth of her people. The war had ended, but for the survivors, safety had not returned. They had been left to hide among ruins, hoping for mercy. Ryan studied her for a moment. He knew he was not supposed to interfere too much with locals. Orders were clear: patrol, observe, and report. But he also knew that walking away would mean leaving her to die. "I will come back," he said firmly. Lyra's eyes widened. She looked at him as if she was unsure whether to believe. For months she had been alone, and no promise had been given to her. Ryan stood, adjusted his pack, and looked once more at the little alien girl. "Stay near here. I will bring more food." She gave the smallest of nods, holding the half-eaten ration close to her chest. Her expression was faint, but a spark of trust began to show. Ryan turned and walked back through the broken streets. The air was still heavy, and the ruins were still silent, yet something had changed. The war had taken much, but in that single meeting, he had found a reason to keep walking forward. Behind him, Lyra sat against the wall with her bread. For the first time in many weeks, she was not only surviving. She was waiting. The next morning, Ryan returned to the broken market street. His boots pressed against the ash-covered ground as the sun climbed over the gray horizon. The sky was dull, yet a thin line of gold light spread across the ruins. He carried a small pack on his shoulder. Inside were pieces of food and another ration bar. He had traded with a fellow soldier the night before, giving away some of his own supplies to make sure he had enough to share. When he reached the wall where he had seen Lyra, he slowed his steps. The place was quiet, almost too quiet. He looked around carefully, scanning the empty windows of the half-broken buildings. He worried she might have moved on. Then he heard the soft sound of footsteps. From behind a collapsed stall, the small figure appeared again. Lyra stepped out, her thin frame moving carefully. Her large eyes focused on him. She did not run. Instead, she stood still, as if waiting to see if he would keep his promise. Ryan gave a small smile. "I said I would come back," he said softly. Her lips moved, almost forming a smile in return, though it was faint. She walked closer, her small hands clasped together. She looked tired, but less afraid than the day before. Ryan took out the ration bar from his pack and held it toward her. "Here. More bread." Lyra's eyes widened. She reached out slowly, her fingers shaking as she accepted the food. This time she did not eat quickly. She sat down on a piece of broken stone, unwrapped the ration carefully, and broke it into small pieces. She placed one piece in her mouth, chewing slowly, then held another piece in her hand. "You save it," Ryan said, watching her. Lyra nodded. She ate with care, making sure nothing was wasted. After a moment, she looked up at him and asked, "Why?" The question surprised him. "Why what?" "Why give bread?" she asked in her quiet voice. Ryan thought for a moment. He sat down across from her, resting his rifle on the ground. "Because you were hungry," he answered. "And because no child should starve." Lyra studied his face for a long time. She seemed to be searching for something, perhaps to see if his words were true. Finally, she gave a tiny nod. As she ate, she began to speak again, this time with a little more strength. "I waited," she said. "I thought you not come back." "I keep my word," Ryan replied. Lyra lowered her head and whispered, "Others did not." Her words carried pain. Ryan understood. Many soldiers had walked these streets, but few had stopped. Most had their orders and their duties. To them, survivors were not their responsibility. Yet for Ryan, leaving her behind had not been possible. He reached into his pack again and brought out his canteen. He offered it to her, and she drank in small sips just as she had the day before. When she handed it back, her eyes lingered on his face. "You are different," she said. Ryan gave a small shrug. "Maybe. Or maybe I just see what others do not." She tilted her head. "What do you see?" He pointed gently at her chest. "Life. You are still alive. That is worth protecting." For a moment, silence filled the air between them. The ruins seemed less empty. Lyra held the ration close to her chest as though it was more than food. It was a sign that she was not invisible, that someone cared enough to notice her. Ryan leaned back against the broken wall, watching the sky. He felt something shift inside him. In all his months as a soldier, he had followed orders, fought battles, and guarded streets. But nothing had touched him as much as this little girl asking for bread. After some time, Lyra began to speak again. Her voice was hesitant, but her words carried meaning. She told him about tunnels under the city where some of her people still lived. Families hid there, weak and starving. They did not come to the surface, fearing humans would not help them. She had been the only one brave enough or desperate enough to come out searching. "Many hide," she said softly. "No food. No light. Only dark." Ryan listened carefully. His heart grew heavy with her words. He had thought she was alone, but now he realized she was only one of many. Survivors were still here, waiting in shadows, trying to stay alive. He asked, "How long have you been in the tunnels?" "Since fire fell," she replied. Her small hands gripped the ration tightly. "Since city broke." The fire she spoke of was the day of battle, when bombs and ships had torn the colony apart. Ryan remembered that day too. The sky had burned red, and the ground had shaken with explosions. For soldiers, it had been another mission. For children like her, it had been the end of everything. Ryan wanted to ask more, but he stopped himself. He could see how hard it was for her to speak of it. Instead, he said, "You are safe with me. I will not harm you." She looked at him for a long time, then nodded slowly. Her trust was not yet full, but a small seed had been planted. When the sun began to sink, Ryan stood. "I must go back to my post," he said. Lyra's expression darkened slightly, as if she feared he would not return again. Ryan noticed it and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "I will come back tomorrow," he promised. "With more bread. And water." Her eyes lifted to his, shining with a quiet hope. "You promise?" "I promise," he said firmly. As he turned to leave, he looked back once more. Lyra sat on the stone, holding the half-eaten ration close. For the first time since he had met her, she gave him a faint but true smile. It was small, almost hidden, but it was real. Ryan walked back through the ruins, his steps lighter than before. The war had taken away much, but in that broken city, something new was beginning. A bond had been formed, fragile but strong enough to matter. And somewhere in the darkness of the tunnels, hope waited to grow. The days passed slowly in the ruined city. Each morning, Ryan walked across the broken streets with a pack over his shoulder. His boots pressed against cracked stones, his rifle rested at his side, and the gray sky stretched above him like a heavy blanket. Yet for the first time in many months, his steps had a purpose beyond duty. Each day, Lyra was waiting. She always stood near the same broken wall, her small frame hidden until she was sure it was him. When she saw Ryan, her face brightened in the faintest way. It was never a wide smile, but her eyes softened, and her shoulders relaxed. Ryan always brought something for her, sometimes a ration bar, sometimes dried fruit, sometimes water from his own supply. She accepted everything with care, never eating too quickly, always saving a part for later. He noticed she had learned to stretch every piece, to treat each crumb as if it were treasure. One afternoon, as she chewed a small piece of bread, Ryan asked gently, "How many days did you go without food before we met?" Lyra's eyes lowered. She held the bread close to her chest before answering. "Many. Too many. I do not count." Ryan felt a heaviness in his chest. No child should have to speak words like that. He reached into his pack and gave her a second piece, more than he usually offered. She hesitated, then slowly took it. "Thank you," she whispered. "You do not need to thank me every time," Ryan said with a faint smile. "It is nothing." But Lyra shook her head. "It is not nothing. It is life." Her words stayed with him long after. As the bond between them grew, Lyra began to speak more. At first, her words were short and careful. She was shy, as if unused to being heard. But slowly, her voice carried longer thoughts. She told him stories of her people, of how the market had once been filled with color, sound, and joy. She described the smell of fresh fruit, the music played by street performers, and the laughter of families walking together. Her eyes grew distant when she spoke of those days, as if she could still see them in her mind. Then her voice would soften, and she would speak of the night when the fire came. She remembered the sky turning red, the ground shaking, and the sound of walls falling. She remembered running with her family, the dust choking her breath, and the screams that filled the air. And then she remembered silence. Ryan never interrupted. He only listened, his heart heavy with every word. He had been a soldier on the other side of that fire. He could not erase the past, but he could give her something in the present, a voice that was heard, a bond that mattered. One evening, when the sky was painted with fading orange light, Lyra surprised him. She handed him a small piece of bread that she had saved from the day before. "For you," she said. Ryan shook his head. "No, you need it more than I do." Her eyes met his firmly. "You give every day." "I give too." He hesitated, then accepted it. He broke the piece in half and ate it with her. For a moment, the broken market felt less like ruins and more like a home. Two lives from different worlds shared a meal together, equal in that small act. One afternoon, as they sat together, Lyra suddenly pointed toward the ground. "There are tunnels," she said. Ryan looked at her curiously. "Tunnels?" She nodded. "Under the city. Many of my people hide there. Families, children, old ones. They fear humans, so they do not come out. They send me because I am small." Ryan leaned closer. "You risk yourself to find food for them." Lyra lowered her head. "If I do not, they die." Her words struck him. He had thought of her as a single survivor, but now he understood she was a messenger of many. The bread he gave her had not only been keeping her alive, it had been keeping hope alive in the tunnels below. Ryan asked softly, "How many are there?" "Many," she said. "Too many to count. They wait in dark. They are afraid of your people. Afraid soldiers will hurt them." Ryan sat back, silent. He knew some soldiers would not care. They would follow orders and turn away, saying the war was finished and the survivors were not their problem. But Ryan could not. He thought of the hidden families, hungry and weak, sitting in darkness while the world above moved on. "Lyra," he said carefully, "can you take me to these tunnels?" She hesitated. Her eyes showed both trust and fear. "If I take you, will you help them?" "I will do all I can," he promised. She studied his face for a long time, then gave a small nod. "Tomorrow. I will show you." That night, back at his outpost, Ryan lay awake. The barracks were quiet, filled with the sound of breathing soldiers, but his mind was restless. He thought of the tunnels, the families, and the children waiting below. He thought of Lyra's eyes when she asked if he would help. He realized the bond between them had grown beyond kindness. It was no longer only about food or water. It was about trust. She trusted him enough to lead him to her people. That trust was fragile, like glass in his hands. If he broke it, he would not only lose her but also the hope of many. The next morning, he returned as promised. Lyra was waiting, as always. But this time, she looked more serious. She carried no smile, only determination. "Are you ready?" she asked. Ryan adjusted his pack and nodded. "I am ready." She led him through the broken streets, past collapsed walls and silent houses. Her steps were careful, as if she had walked the path many times before. Finally, she stopped at a hidden corner, where a broken stone slab covered part of the ground. She bent down and pushed it aside, revealing a dark opening below. "This way," she whispered. Ryan looked into the darkness. He tightened his grip on his rifle, then looked at her small face. She was not afraid of the dark. She was afraid of what would happen if he betrayed her trust. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "I gave you bread," he said. "Now I will give them hope." Lyra's eyes glistened. She nodded once, then climbed down into the tunnel. Ryan followed, stepping into the shadows of the unknown. That day, a fragile bond carried them into the heart of the hidden world below. A bond born from bread, built with trust, and now strong enough to lead a human soldier into the depths where no other had gone. The tunnel air was heavy and damp. As Ryan lowered himself through the stone opening, he felt the weight of the earth pressing down. The dim light above faded quickly, leaving only shadows. Lyra moved ahead of him, her small feet making almost no sound on the packed soil floor. She carried no lantern, yet she seemed to know every step by memory. Ryan adjusted his vision to the darkness. The soldier in him was alert, his hand resting near his rifle, but his heart was focused on the child leading him. The air smelled of dust and age, mixed with a faint scent of smoke. The walls were rough stone, and water dripped in slow drops from cracks above. "How far do these tunnels go?" he asked quietly. "Far," Lyra answered. "Many paths, many rooms. My people hide here since fire fell." Ryan nodded. His boots crunched lightly as he followed her deeper. The world above seemed distant, almost forgotten. Here, silence ruled, broken only by the echo of dripping water and their footsteps. After several turns, the passage widened. Ryan noticed faint glimmers of light ahead. Small crystal stones, glowing softly in shades of pale blue, were fixed into the walls. They gave enough brightness to see but not enough to chase away the shadows. "These crystals," he whispered. "Old stones," Lyra explained. "They glow by themselves. Not bright, but better than dark." Ryan touched one with his gloved hand. It was cool, smooth, and pulsed faintly, almost alive. He wondered if this was part of the planet's natural beauty, untouched by war. Soon the passage opened into a larger chamber. Ryan stopped at the entrance. His eyes widened as he took in the sight before him. Dozens of figures huddled together in the wide cavern. Alien families sat close, their faces thin, their eyes tired. Children clung to their parents. The elders leaned against the walls, too weak to stand. The chamber smelled of old smoke from small fires that had long since burned out. Silence fell as the people noticed the human soldier. Whispers spread quickly. Fear showed on their faces. Some pulled their children closer, others backed away. All eyes turned to him. Ryan felt the tension like a blade against his skin. He kept his rifle strapped and raised his empty hand slowly. "I mean no harm," he said softly. The crowd did not move. Only the sound of breathing filled the chamber. Then Lyra stepped forward. She raised the ration bar he had given her the day before. "He gave bread," she said, her voice small but clear. "He helped me." The people looked at her, then at him again. Suspicion still lingered, but Lyra's words carried weight. She was one of their own, and if she trusted him, they would listen. Ryan lowered himself to one knee, making himself smaller, less threatening. He reached into his pack and pulled out more food. Slowly, he placed it on the ground before him. Dried fruit, a ration bar, and a flask of water. "For you," he said. "I cannot give much, but I will try." A thin elder stepped forward, his body bent but his eyes sharp. He studied Ryan carefully, then looked at Lyra. "You trust him?" the elder asked. Lyra nodded firmly. "He gave me life. He promised hope." The elder's gaze lingered on Ryan, then softened slightly. He gave a slow nod. The tension in the chamber eased. Ryan sat with them for a time, listening more than speaking. He learned that many had been hiding since the day of destruction. They dared not surface for fear of soldiers or scavengers. Food had grown scarce, and sickness had spread in the dark. "We lived in shadows," the elder said. "We waited for help that never came." Ryan felt the weight of their words. He thought of the command post, where reports spoke of cleaning the area and restoring order, yet never once mentioned survivors like these. They had been forgotten by both sides. As he handed pieces of food to the children, he noticed how carefully they ate, just like Lyra. Every bite was treated as precious. He felt shame that he had once thought his rations were tasteless. To them, it was life itself. Lyra sat beside him, watching proudly as if his kindness was her victory. For the first time, she was not the only one receiving food. She had brought hope back to her people. After some time, Lyra tugged at his sleeve. "There is something more," she whispered. She led him to another passage, smaller and deeper. They walked until they reached a chamber unlike the others. At the center stood a machine, broken and silent. Its shape was alien, with curved metal panels and wires that hung loosely. Faint energy still pulsed within its core, casting a weak glow. "What is this?" Ryan asked, stepping closer. The elders fear it, Lyra said. They say it is from the enemy. But I think it is not only for war. Ryan studied the machine. His soldiers I told him it was technology left behind, but not a weapon. The design reminded him of power generators he had seen before, though different in shape. If it could be restored, it might provide energy, light, heat, maybe even water purification. He knelt down, running his hand along the surface. The metal was cold, lifeless, but the faint hum within told him it was not fully dead. He felt a spark of possibility. Lyra, he said carefully, if this machine can work again, it could help your people. Her eyes lit up. I knew it. But it is not simple, he continued. It will take time. And if I repair it, others may notice. It could bring danger. She lowered her voice. But if we do nothing, they die. Ryan met her gaze. The same trust he had seen before was now stronger. She believed in him, not just to give food but to bring life back to her people. When they returned to the main chamber, the elder watched him closely. She shows you the forbidden place, he said. Why? Because I want to help, Ryan answered. The elder studied him for a long moment, then gave another slow nod. Perhaps the war is ending not with weapons, but with bread. Ryan looked at Lyra, who stood proudly beside him. He understood then that their fragile bond had grown into something more. It was no longer just about a soldier helping a hungry child. It was about a human standing with those who had been forgotten. As he left the tunnels that evening, the world above felt different. The ruins no longer looked like empty stones. Beneath them, life still waited, fragile but unbroken. He knew the days ahead would not be easy. But he also knew he could not turn away. The hidden tunnels had revealed more than survivors. They had revealed a new path, one that might change everything. The next morning, Ryan returned to the tunnels with heavier steps. His pack carried food and water, but his thoughts carried questions. The image of the strange machine from the day before stayed in his mind. He had seen engines, weapons, and generators during the war, but this one was different. It felt important, almost alive, like it was waiting for someone to wake it. Lyra greeted him near the tunnel entrance. Her face was brighter than usual. She seemed proud to guide him deeper into the hidden world again. The others speak of you, she said as they walked. Some are still afraid, but many begin to hope. Ryan gave a small nod. Hope is good. Without it, no one survives. The tunnels stretched on, their walls lined with glowing crystals. When they reached the main chamber, children ran to Lyra. They touched her hands and whispered questions. Ryan noticed how they looked at him differently now. Less fear, more curiosity. He gave them small dried fruits, and their eyes lit up like stars. But Ryan's focus was on the hidden chamber with the machine. He followed Lyra again, feeling the weight of the decision he might soon face. The machine stood silent as before. Its curved panels reflected the faint light, and its broken wires hung loose. Ryan placed his hand on the metal, feeling the soft hum inside. It was weak but steady, like a heartbeat. He circled it slowly, studying every part. The design was alien, but the principle seemed familiar. This is not a weapon, he said at last. It is a power source. It can bring energy. Lyra's eyes widened. Energy for light? For heat? Yes, Ryan replied. And maybe more. If it works, you will no longer hide in dark. You can cook food, clean water, stay warm. She clapped her hands softly, her voice full of excitement. Then we must fix it? Ryan sighed. It is not so easy. I need tools, wires, fuel cells. Some of these I may find in the ruins above, but others I do not know. Lyra tilted her head. But you will try. He looked into her hopeful eyes. He remembered the first day he had met her, thin and starving, asking for bread. She had trusted him then, and she still trusted him now. He could not turn away. Yes, he said firmly. I will try. That evening, Ryan returned to his outpost. The other soldiers were resting, cleaning weapons, or playing games to pass the time. No one asked where he had gone. No one cared about the ruins beyond patrol duty. In the quiet of the night, Ryan searched through the storage crates. He found spare wires, broken batteries, and a set of tools. He slipped them into his pack carefully. It was risky. If anyone asked why, he had no answer. But he reminded himself of the starving children in the tunnels. They mattered more than orders. The following day, Ryan returned to the hidden chamber. He spread the tools on the ground and began his work. Lyra watched closely, her eyes wide with curiosity. What are you doing now? She asked as he pulled open a panel. I am checking the circuits, he explained. The machine still has power inside, but it cannot flow through the broken parts. He reconnected wires, cleaned dust from connectors, and replaced what he could with the pieces he had brought. Sparks flickered once, making Lyra jump, but Ryan only smiled. That is good. It means the heart is still beating. Hours passed as he worked. Sweat ran down his face, but he did not stop. Each connection brought the machine closer to life. At times he doubted himself, unsure if alien technology could be repaired with human hands. Yet something in him refused to give up. Finally, as he pressed the last wire into place, a low hum filled the chamber. The machine pulsed with light, glowing brighter than before. Blue energy ran along its panels, spreading warmth into the air. Lyra gasped. Her hands covered her mouth, and her eyes shone with wonder. It lives, she whispered. Ryan stepped back, watching the machine stabilize. The soft glow filled the room, chasing away the shadows. The air felt warmer already. Yes, he said, his voice calm but firm. It lives. Word spread quickly through the tunnels. Families gathered in the chamber, their faces lit by the gentle glow. Children laughed as they touched the warm metal, while elders whispered prayers of thanks. For them, it was more than a machine. It was a miracle. The elder approached Ryan, his old eyes glistening. You bring light into our darkness, he said. We thought all humans carried only fire and death. Yet you bring life. Ryan bowed his head slightly. I only repaired what was already here. But inside, he knew it was more than repair. It was a choice. He had chosen to act when others would not. That night, Ryan sat beside the machine, tired but content. Lyra sat next to him, her head resting lightly on her knees. The soft light reflected in her eyes. You did it, she said softly. We did it, Ryan corrected. Without your trust, I would never have found this place. Lyra gave a small smile. It was gentle but full of pride. The others believe now. They say maybe humans and my people can live together again. Ryan looked at the glowing machine. He wished it were that simple. He knew there were still soldiers above who would not accept this. If they discovered the tunnels, they might destroy everything out of fear. but he also knew something had changed. The bond between him and Lyra had grown stronger, and through her, a bond with all her people had begun. "Do not lose hope," he said at last. "This is only the beginning." The next morning, when he prepared to leave the tunnels, the elder stopped him. "Be careful," the old man said. "Light draws eyes. If others see it, danger will follow." Ryan nodded. He knew the truth of those words. The machine had given them life, but it could also reveal them to the wrong people. As he climbed back to the surface, he felt both pride and worry. The city above was silent, but silence could break at any time. He had lit a fire in the dark, and now he had to protect it. That day, as the sun rose over the ruins, Ryan stood tall on the broken streets. For the first time in a long while, he felt that his duty was not only to orders but to something greater. Deep below, the machine hummed with life, and with it, hope pulsed through the tunnels. And beside that hope stood a little girl who once begged for bread, now standing as the voice of her people. The tunnels were brighter now, yet the glow from the repaired machine cast long shadows that danced along the walls. Ryan walked carefully through the hidden paths, his rifle resting at his side. Lyra ran ahead, her small feet barely making a sound. Children followed quietly behind, curious but cautious. The warmth of the machine spread through the chamber, and the air smelled less like damp stone and more like life itself. Ryan paused and looked around. The faces of the survivors told him much. They were weak, thin, and tired, yet the light had brought a spark of courage into their eyes. Lyra's people were beginning to hope again. He understood that this fragile moment of safety might not last long. "The humans above," Lyra said softly as they walked, "they do not know about the tunnels. But if they see the light, they will come." Ryan's jaw tightened. He had known this risk all along. The machine could give them warmth, energy, and hope, but it could also attract attention from soldiers, scavengers, or other hostile groups. If the tunnels were discovered, it could destroy everything. He looked down at Lyra. "I have to make a choice," he said quietly. Lyra stopped and turned to him, her eyes wide. "What choice?" "The choice to act," Ryan explained. "I can keep helping your people and risk drawing others here. Or I can leave, protect the secret, and hope they survive without more help." She pressed her small hands together. "If you leave, many will suffer. They already trust you." "I know," Ryan said. "But if others come because of the light, they may destroy everything we have saved." Lyra's voice grew firm. "Then you must stay. You help us because you care. That is stronger than fear." Ryan looked at her, seeing the strength behind her words. She was small, yet braver than many adults he had met. Her trust had grown into something larger. It had given life to a hidden community. And now, that trust demanded his decision. He spent the next hours walking through the tunnels, examining the machine and speaking quietly to the elders. They spoke of food, water, and health. They spoke of fear, and of long months of hiding. Ryan listened, giving advice where he could and sharing small resources he had brought from above. As night approached, he returned to the chamber where the machine pulsed with steady energy. Children played softly in the warm light, their laughter small but genuine. Elders smiled faintly, tears in their eyes as they saw life return. Ryan realized that the choice was no longer about danger or rules. It was about life. Every heartbeat in the chamber was a reminder that his decision would matter. Finally, he gathered everyone together. The elder spoke first. "We have lived in darkness for many moons," he said. Some fear the world above. But this human has given us light. Not only in the machine, but in his care. Ryan lowered his head slightly. I did not act alone, he said. Lyra guided me. She showed me where to find you. She gave me trust, and that trust made me act. But now, I must make a choice that will affect all of you. He looked at Lyra, who stood beside him, her hands clasped. I will not leave. I will continue to help, even if it brings danger. This place, your lives, and your hope are worth the risk. A silence filled the chamber. The children stopped their play. The elders leaned closer, listening. Even the adults, tired and weary, felt the weight of his words. We will protect this place, Ryan continued. We will be careful. But we cannot hide forever. And we cannot survive if we do not act. Lyra stepped forward, her voice small but firm. We trust you. We follow you. We want light, not darkness. Ryan felt a surge of resolve. He had expected fear, doubt, and hesitation, but instead, he found courage in their eyes. They were no longer only survivors, they were a community ready to face the risks of life above the tunnels. Over the next days, Ryan worked tirelessly. He taught some of the older children how to operate small parts of the machine, showed the adults how to maintain the glow, and mapped paths in the tunnels to ensure safety. Lyra ran from chamber to chamber, helping those too weak to move, carrying small portions of food, and comforting children who were afraid of the dark. Each day, the tunnels grew warmer, brighter, and more alive. Ryan knew that the risk of discovery increased with every spark, every light, and every voice that laughed in the tunnels. But he also knew that the risk was worth the life it gave back to those who had suffered for too long. One evening, as the glow of the machine filled the chamber, the elder approached Ryan. His hands were frail, yet his eyes were steady. You have made a choice, he said softly. You chose to protect life over rules. That is not easy for your kind. Many would have left. Many would have walked away. But you stayed. Ryan nodded. I could not walk away. The elder smiled faintly. Then the children will grow. The families will survive. And the light will remain, because you chose to act. Lyra stood beside him, her small hand brushing against his arm. You saved us, she said softly. No, Ryan replied. We saved each other. The glow of the machine filled the tunnels with warmth. Children laughed and played. Adults worked quietly to keep the chamber safe. And for the first time in months, no one felt the crushing weight of hunger or fear. Ryan looked around the room. His decision had been made. He would continue to protect this hidden world, even if danger came from above. He had chosen life over safety, hope over fear, and trust over doubt. In that moment, he knew the power of his choice. It was not in the machine, the food, or the light. It was in the courage to act when no one else would. The night settled in the tunnels. The hum of the machine continued, steady and strong. Ryan sat beside Lyra, who was now asleep, her small frame curled against a warm wall. The chamber was quiet except for the soft breathing of the children and the faint glow of hope that surrounded them. He thought of the days ahead. He knew the tunnels would be tested, and that dangers would come. Yet he also knew that the choice to stay, to protect life, had created something incredible. A human and a little alien girl had changed the fate of many. And in the silent glow of the machine, Ryan understood that sometimes the greatest power in the universe was not weapons or armies. It was trust, courage, and the choice to act for others when no one else would. The tunnels glowed softly with the light of the repaired machine. Its energy filled every corner of the hidden world, casting warmth along the rough stone walls. Children ran freely, their laughter echoing off the ceiling. Adults moved with confidence, carrying small tasks, tending fires, or bringing water. For the first time in months, the people of the tunnels were alive in more than just body, they were alive in spirit. Ryan walked carefully through the chambers, observing the changes. The fear that had once clung to every shadow was gone, replaced by quiet hope. Lyra ran ahead, her small steps carrying her to every corner of the community. She helped children learn to use the machine safely, guided adults in moving supplies, and comforted those who were still too weak to leave their corners. Her eyes shone with pride and confidence, and Ryan realized that she had grown stronger than he had ever imagined. "Ryan!" Lyra called from a side chamber. "Come quickly." He followed her to a wider room where several children had gathered around the machine. Their small hands reached toward it, feeling the energy pulses, their eyes wide with wonder. Ryan knelt beside them, watching carefully to make sure nothing dangerous happened. One child, smaller than the rest, looked up at him with curiosity. "It is magic?" the child asked. Ryan smiled gently. "No magic," he said. "It is technology, and it works because people care. Care can create things just as strong as magic." The child nodded slowly, as if understanding something important for the first time. As evening came, the elder approached Ryan. His face was calm, yet his eyes held a depth of gratitude that words could not fully capture. "You have done more than repair a machine," the elder said softly. "You have restored life, not only in body, but in spirit. For months, we lived afraid, hidden in shadows. Now we laugh, we move freely, we hope. You brought that to us." Ryan shook his head. "I only gave what I could," he said. "The real change comes from all of you. You chose to trust. You chose to act alongside me. I only followed that trust." Lyra stood beside him, her small hand brushing his arm. "You saved us," she said simply. "No," Ryan replied, smiling. "We saved each other." The elder nodded, a faint smile crossing his face. "Then let the light remain. Let hope remain." Word of the machine spread slowly through the hidden community. Families gathered around it every day, learning how to manage its energy. The tunnels, once dark and silent, became filled with activity. Children played, adults worked, and the elders guided them with care. Ryan taught them simple skills, passing on knowledge from above the ruins. Lyra became a leader among her people. She guided the children, encouraged the adults, and acted as a bridge between them and Ryan. Her growth was incredible to witness. The small alien girl who had once begged for bread was now strong, confident, and full of life. Ryan watched her closely. Every decision he had made, the choice to help, the choice to stay, the choice to repair the machine, had led to this moment. What had begun with a small act of kindness had grown into something far greater than he could have imagined. One morning, a faint rumble came from the surface. Ryan paused, alert. He had expected that the machine's glow might draw attention. He stepped outside the tunnels to look, careful not to reveal the entrance. The ruins above were quiet, but movement in the distance caught his eye. "Soldiers?" Lyra asked softly, standing behind him. "Possibly," Ryan replied. "We must be ready, but we will protect this place. We cannot let fear drive us back into the shadows." Lyra nodded. "We will stay together." And they did. The next hours were tense, but the soldiers above did not discover the entrance. Ryan had prepared paths, hidden lights, and safe rooms. The tunnels were no longer a place of fear, they were a fortress of hope. As days turned into weeks, life in the tunnels continued to improve. Ryan brought small supplies from above, and the people learned to manage the energy from the machine to cook food, filter water, and even warm small rooms. Children grew stronger and healthier. Adults worked together to build small shelters along the wider parts of the tunnels. Lyra stood in the center of the main chamber one evening, watching the activity around her. Her hands rested on the glowing machine, and she smiled softly. Ryan came to stand beside her. "You have done well," he said. "We did it together," she replied. He nodded. "You taught me the true meaning of trust. Without you, none of this would have been possible." Her eyes shone with pride, but also with gratitude. "You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that one person can make a difference." Ryan smiled, feeling the weight of all he had done. He realized that the incredible thing was not the machine, the light, or even the food. The incredible thing was the bond they had built. It was trust, courage, and care made real. It was human and alien working side by side to create life where there had been only darkness. One evening, as the chamber quieted and children fell asleep, Ryan sat alone with the elder. "You have changed everything," the elder said softly. "Our people now believe that we can live again. That the world above does not only bring death. Your kindness is more powerful than any weapon we have seen." Ryan thought for a moment. "I only did what felt right. But I see now that the right choice can grow far beyond what one person imagines." The elder nodded. "Then continue. Protect what you have built. Teach them to trust. Teach them to hope." Ryan looked back toward the glowing machine, and then to Lyra, who slept quietly nearby. The tunnels, once silent and hidden, were alive with life, laughter, and light. Days later, as he returned to the surface, Ryan paused and looked back. The ruins above were still quiet, but below, hidden in the tunnels, a small world had grown. Children ran in the soft glow, elders smiled, and adults worked with purpose. All of them had survived, grown stronger, and discovered that life could continue, even after loss. He understood then that the story of a starving little girl and a human soldier was only the beginning. The incredible thing was not just survival, it was what could happen when trust, care, and courage were combined. Ryan smiled to himself, walking across the broken streets. He had once believed his duty was only to follow orders. Now he knew that his duty was also to act for life, for hope, and for trust. And somewhere in the glowing tunnels below, a little girl named Lyra watched over her people, proud, strong, and alive. The machine hummed quietly in the background, but its real power was not the light or warmth it provided. Its power was the bond it had created, the hope it had restored, and the courage it had inspired. The tunnels were alive. The children laughed. The adults worked. The elders smiled. And the human soldier and the little alien girl had done something incredible together. Life had returned to the hidden world, and hope would never leave it again.